Let's get in now to some more news and rumors here around the Kansas City Chiefs and Eric Bieniemy. Could he be going to Houston?
I mean, he's still in the mix. Now, the way the NFL works here, Mitch, which is stupid, by the way, is, Bieniemy and the Chiefs won, which means we can't interview him in person for a second interview until they're out of the playoffs, which means we're just going to move on in our search, which is stupid logic. If you think he's a better candidate, you wait, but teams getting patient. However, Houston has been taking its sweet old time, and I think that's more of they have no choice because of how things have gone with Deshaun Watson. But Adam Schefter did report that Bieniemy is scheduled to have a second interview. Now, this was before they won the AFC Championship, so could they decide to cancel that? Are they going to be willing to wait 2 weeks? We'll have to wait and see. But Schefter did have this tweet about Eric Bieniemy and Bills defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier, who obviously is out of the playoffs now, saying that these two guys, they've started to put staffs together, basically, because they believe that they are prime candidates to get the Texans' job. So these two candidates are at least starting to, move the train tracks a little bit. Like, hey, if I get this job, I'm thinking this guy for my OC, I'm thinking that guy for my DC, XYZ. Now, with Bieniemy having 2 more weeks here with the Chiefs at least to get ready for the Super Bowl, Tom Pelissero is reporting that they're going to proceed with Leslie Frazier with the second in-person interview. Oh, by the way, he's back. Ravens assistant coach David Culley, who's never been a head coach, and he's like 65. They're going to go ahead and give him a second interview too. So we'll see on Eric Bieniemy to Houston. If I were the Texans, I would wait because I think that's my best chance of getting Deshaun Watson back. But Houston doesn't seem to know what the hell they're doing, so we'll just have to wait and see. And I just wonder, Mitch, this job might be a disaster.
It is. Why would anybody want to, if Deshaun Watson's not there, I'm good.
Yes.
Good.
Seriously, if I'm Bieniemy too, I'll just hang out forever, even if I have to wait 6 years to just take over for Andy Reid in Kansas City, because I think at the very least he could take over for Reid. It might take a while because Andy Reid signed a contract extension, but I don't want to go coach Trey Lance and the busted Houston Texans. I mean, could you imagine that? That is just.
I think also for Bieniemy though is as long as he stays with the Kansas City Chiefs, he's probably going to be the top candidate every.
He's always going to be in the mix.
Year. Every single year. Why not take the job that you 100% want with the quarterback you want instead of a coin flip and not knowing who the heck you're going to get? So where will Eric Bieniemy be in 2021? Let us know. To the Chiefs, is he going to stay at home, KC, or is he going to go to Houston? So type HOU. We got to get in now to some injury news here around Eric Fisher. This is a
tough one.
This is pretty upsetting. So, suffered a torn Achilles versus the Bills. Obviously, he's going to miss Super Bowl 55.
And, long term, his next year is very much in doubt. You're talking about 8 months until week 1 next year. I'd say that's 20% chance. Maybe you get him back for next season. It's going to take longer for a 300-something-pound lineman to recover from a torn Achilles. We see these freak athletes in the NBA and stuff doing it in 8 months. This is a different deal, though, when you're carrying this much weight in Eric Fisher. So, obviously, the focus is now for the Super Bowl. And you think about the amount of shuffle this team has had on its offensive line. Just think about this, Mitch. Your all-pro right tackle hasn't played since week 6 in Mitchell Schwartz. Eric Fisher, he's now going to miss the biggest game of the season in the Super Bowl. Kelechi Osemele, he tore tendons in both of his knees, I believe against the Raiders early on in the season, hasn't played since. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif opted out to be a frontline worker for COVID-19. Osemele was his replacement, so they're both gone. Lucas Niang, your third-round pick out of TCU, who was going to be a swing tackle guard type, he opted out as well. They only have one week 1 starter remaining on their offensive line, but to the Chiefs' credit, they just keep plugging away and keep scoring points because of some guy named Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, no one likes injuries. Agreed. Spam H in the comments if you hate injuries. You hate to see this for a guy like Eric Fisher before a Super Bowl.
For sure.
I think he's way more upset about missing this game than even next season, right? You're talking about an opportunity to play in back-to-back Super Bowls. He's not going to get to play there. So that's definitely a bummer for him. But the offensive line heading into this Super Bowl, there's got to be concerns heading into that Bucs front 4 with Shaq Barrett, JPP, Sue. Those guys can get after the quarterback.
They definitely got after Aaron Rodgers.
No doubt.
They just
5
totally,
sacks.
Totally. But they got after him in their first matchup as well. Their first matchup early on in the regular season, 13 quarterback hits, 4 sacks. Then this past game, again, I actually think it's one of the bigger reasons why Aaron Rodgers at the end of that game didn't really want to try to get into the end zone. He was sick and tired of getting hit the entire time. So try to thread the needle to Devontae Adams instead of taking maybe the easy touchdown, maybe. But that Bucs front four, they're legit.
Now, the good news for Kansas City is they've played this team before, and that offensive line was banged up then, not as banged up as it will be for the Super Bowl. This is what the O-line's probably going to be. This is what we saw late in the game. Your right guard, Andrew Wiley, swung over to right tackle. You plug in Steven Wisniewski, who's bounced around to and from the Chiefs 2 or 3 times now. Austin Ryder's your only starter from week 1 remaining at center. And by the way, he was benched for 3 weeks because he wasn't playing well, and he's your only starter remaining. Nick Allegretti, the second-year player, who's been pretty good. And then Mike Rimmers, who's been playing right tackle for Schwartz. He'll slide to left tackle. That's what you got to work with at this point. So, hey, I'm not doubting Mahomes. I'm not doubting Reed and these guys, but you're playing with the patchwork offensive line for the Super Bowl 55. There's just no way around it.
Hey, if there's any Chiefs fans out there, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/ChiefsTV. Right now, the #1 most watched Chiefs channel on YouTube. All right, Harrison, we got to talk about a huge injury here. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, who you could argue is being probably the steal of this past draft.
Late 4th round.
This is concerning. Anytime you got a concussion, the 2 weeks help, but it's still concerning.
Yeah, and this wasn't like the Mahomes deal where it's like, well, he wouldn't hit that hard. His head slammed the turf.
Yeah, it was
Sneed's did. I mean, you saw him shaking his head trying to get up, and you're like, oh, he's got a concussion.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so obvious. Like you said, the extra week helps. It's not a guarantee, though. We saw Buster Screen for the Chicago Bears miss the final 4 games of the season with a concussion.
Yeah.
It just depends. Now, I'm optimistic that he'll play, but he is in the protocol. Obviously, Bashaud Breeland was in it last week as well. He returned and played well. But L'Jarius Sneed, the job he did on Stephon Diggs in that game last night, he was phenomenal. He is probably your best corner already as a 4th-round rookie. And that's not because your corners are trash. It's because Sneed has been that good of a player. So hopefully he's ready to go for the Super Bowl because – I don't know if you know this, Mitch. The Bucs have some pretty good wide receivers. We'll mention these a couple of guys here as well as we wrap up this Chiefs report here. Sammy Watkins, will he play in the Super Bowl? We'll see. Calf injury. He's been trying to practice some. Le'Veon Bell.
Do they even need him?
I don't think so. Darrell Williams has been a great story in the playoffs. And then also Willie Gay Jr., he's been dealing with an ankle injury. Even if he plays, he'll just be a special teams type of guy. But a couple of other guys to keep a thought on and something we'll update here on the Chiefs report leading up to Super Bowl 55. And speaking of the big game, Mitch, 2 weeks away.
Oh,
Type C for the Chiefs, Type B for the Bucs. Who you got in Super Bowl 55?
To be honest, earlier on in the year, I was like, I don't know if I want to see Chiefs or Buccaneers, just because I wanted to see something different. However, I thought we had a pretty good analogy earlier on in the studio where it was like, imagine if LeBron James could play against Michael Jordan in the finals. That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
You have Tom Brady, the GOAT, going up against Patrick Mahomes, who some people are already throwing him in that realm. This is going to be a great game. Type C for the Chiefs, Type B for the Bucs. It's hard to bet against the GOAT, but I saw what the Chiefs did to the Bills, and they absolutely embarrassed them. I thought they could have beat them by 30. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm typing my C.